Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, is Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, what's up, sir?
Dude, it's going to be a busy weekend. I just feel all this stuff coming up. We've got some exciting sports happening, another big golf tournament, pay-per-view, WWE. I'm excited. Dad and I talked about it yesterday. I'm actually excited for NASCAR this week, with it being in Chicago. Looking forward to that. But tie in a whole wedding that I'm going to in Portland, so it's going to be a DVR everything and hopefully try to catch up.
Well, luckily you have plenty of time to catch up. Again, show notes. We will not be here next week for the 4th of July, so hope everyone has a fantastic holiday early week, I guess you can say. And then the week after that, Robert will not be here. Most likely it'll be Eric and I. We're trying again to get the kickoff reunion going on this show, but Harry will be out of town that week. So most likely it'll just be Eric and I when we return on July 11th. So Robert will be gone for the next 2 weeks, kind of recharge his batteries before we really start diving into all the NFL stuff. We will start getting into our previews. We will look at positional stuff starting this week. We'll look at the defenses. And then after a week off, we'll get into the offensive positions, tight ends, wide receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks. And then right into all of the divisional breakdowns and our predictions. And just before you know it, the season will be here as far as football goes. Major League Baseball is basically right at the mid-season mark. most teams are within a game or two of that. We, again, will not be here next week. So we're going to start today's show with our mid-season awards. We'll get to that shortly. College World Series concluded. Game one was close. The other two you could turn off after about the third inning, but we'll get into that. NBA draft is behind us. Drew Timme does not get drafted. We'll talk about that. As you had mentioned, some big stuff in the sports that don't get enough airtime, so we'll give them some love here. Sports-related draft, it is your topic, and it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a fun one this week.
Yeah, just because, we're not going to be here for the 4th, and, 4th of July for me every year here, the last about 6-7 years is by the time you wake up and have your morning coffee, it's time to turn on the TV, and guess who's on your TV? And that's Joey Chestnut.
Right.
And so this week we're going to do a little spin on our favorite competitive eating contest, or which ones is the best competitive that is not the hot dog eating contest. We'll get to that at about the 7 o'clock hour.
Robert over here trying to bend the rules a little bit, knowing that I would get the first pick, so he takes the best one off the board, like we watch anything else as far as eating contests go. But we will get into that. There's some interesting ones out there in the world. I know for a fact I went fun with my list. We'll see if that ends up with me getting a victory or me getting 0 votes. It's going to be one or the other. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. Again, real quick, no show next week. I'll try to remind you guys as much of that throughout the show, because I know we usually get people trailing in as the show goes on. They'll check us out on Facebook, so I'll try to remind everybody no show next week. But right now, let's get into it. Our main topic of the show, it is basically mid-season now for Major League Baseball. And before we get into our awards, let's go ahead and look at the standings as they are right now. Or going into some of the games today. Some of them were already getting into the 7th or 8th inning by the time our show got started. But as we came into today, this is how things stand. Not a lot has moved since a week ago in the American League. Houston and the Angels kind of flip-flopping back and forth right now for second in the West. That last couple wild card positions right now in the American League is wide open between Yankees, Blue Jays, Astros, and Angels. And we won't talk about surprises or anything, because that will be hit a little bit later on in this topic. But just looking at these standings, what really stands out to you here in the American League?
It's still how dominant the AL East is, and it's going to stay that way, the rest of the way out. You look at the Central, and we knew the Central in both divisions was going to be, and just very shocking how weak that division has become. And we're going to talk about some sellers, and a team I thought would never be one of those sellers is where I'm going to go with one of my picks, and that's Kansas City. They've just underperformed, and it's sad to see that they're 17 games back in the Central and well out of it already.
Yeah, I knew they weren't going to be a contender, but was not expecting them to contend with Oakland for the worst record. We have two teams going at it for who could have the worst record of all time as far as 162 game schedule goes. That makes it really interesting, but that also just adds to the battle for these playoff spots. Again, Major League Baseball added a wild card last year, and it kind of added some interesting matchups and some interesting races down the stretch. It's going to be that same way here. And then on top of it, they balanced the schedules this year. So Central teams really having issues because they're not just being able to beat up on each other, and the East not having to play each other 18 times each have kind of shown that they are the more dominant division right now in the American League. All 5 teams still over 500. All 5 teams right now would currently lead the AL Central, which is just always hilarious to me. But the West continues, other than Oakland, to show that they have 4 very strong teams. Seattle right now in 4th place, 1 game out of or below 500, and only 4 games out of the playoff spot. So it's basically what do we get? 6 playoff spots. 1 has to go to the Central. So 5 playoff spots up for grabs between 10 teams,
Right.
really.
And
Or
that's
9 teams, I guess. 9 teams because you take out Oakland. So 9 teams fighting for the other 5 playoff teams spots. It's going to be great.
and we're just now almost to the end of June. And the big thing you think and you look at, and it's going to be for the AL Central, I believe it's whoever's going to become the hottest team in September, hands down. I mean, as close as this race is, it's not the pure dominance like Cleveland was. As far as the East, I believe 3 of the teams easily have a chance. Toronto's starting to slide back a little bit, but both Toronto and Boston could make a push here with 2 months left, and it just is showing how much dominance is coming out of this system and out of the East and what they're capable of doing. As far as the homer pick of Seattle, we just have to stay consistent. You go in and you take 2 from one team, and then all of a sudden you can't do anything against the Yankees. You can't do anything against
consistent. That's consistent.
So it's just been a roller coaster for Seattle over a little bit, and pretty soon, we'll be putting the Las Vegas A's down there. So.
Right. I'm totally fine with that. In the National League, a bit more flip-flopping going on, especially in that NL Central. Still surprising to me that St. Louis is last in that division, 8.5 games back. They have come out and said that they are not selling at the deadline, or they're hoping not to just completely implode that team. Miami has made the NL East really interesting with the Phillies and Mets kind of underperforming. The Diamondbacks have been really fun to watch. San Francisco has really gotten things going lately, which makes it even more fun with the Dodgers really having all of their injuries as far as pitching goes, and San Diego underperforming. So we were talking about how the Central will be battling it out for 1 playoff spot in the American League and 9 teams battling it out for the other 5 spots. Here, I mean, you just look at it, it's more top heavy here, where the 6 teams we have right now, other than the NL Central winner, could be the teams we have come October.
Yeah, 100%. As you kind of gave me a bad, was picking on me this morning, that I had done some stuff, and I had Cincinnati up 1 spot up, but forgot they had late games. But that's what I think this Central is going to do here. St. Louis, it has to be the story in this whole NL division right now, is how bad that they're not living up to the standards with the guys that they've got. I mean, it's going to be interesting, and if on the flip side, the other story has got to be Arizona. I mean, who figured Arizona being in major contention and leading? It's not huge. I mean, from first to third, we've only got 3 games between them, but being in contention with the Dodgers and San Francisco, this is the beauty of playing 162 games. 1 week it's going to be here, and then all of a sudden things are going to shift, and you got a new leader.
Yeah, I mean, look at just the NL Central. Cincinnati was in 4th place and go out and win 12 games in a row. They go jump all the way up, and we're the division leader, now struggling here a little bit. They've dropped back down to 2nd. They're having a great series right now with Baltimore. They had some rain make the first game a little bit rough to watch, and Baltimore got to the Cincinnati bullpen and won that first game. Right now, Cincinnati winning 2-1 here in the second game. That turned out to be a fantastic series. I mean, obviously, we're not looking into June when you're looking at the Major League Baseball calendar, but this is not a series that we would have been circling as far as the spring training had gone. So let's get into it. Let's get into some individual awards here for the first half, and let's start with the easy one, the American League MVP. I did my best. You put in yours yesterday, and I did my best to come up with someone else. Sometimes I believe that my pick is just outright better than your pick. There's a couple others where I'm like, well, it could be where Robert is going, but let me lean this way. I could not in the American League MVP. Shohei Ohtani is in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th in this category. And you put up his stats here on our note page, and you didn't put any of his pitching. His offense alone, if he did not pitch at all this year, offensively alone, he would be your MVP.
Yeah, hands down. I mean, leading the league, 26 home runs, and I want to say he's second, I believe, first or second in RBI. I mean, this guy is just doing it, doing it all, and it's crazy to think that even with what he is doing, he can't keep his team far enough into the. That's the only thing bad about this whole scenario is they're sitting right now, lower down end, so in the AL West. That's the only downside to his play is he needs some extra help around him.
Mm-hmm. Right, and right now they're right in that hunt. Right now they're half game out of the wild card spot in the American League, but he has just been phenomenal, and it just seems like every day he comes up with a clutch base hit or a great pitching performance. So I did think Judge was the MVP last year, and we both said it was going to take some kind of a historic effort to top Ohtani as far as MVP goes. No one else is really doing that, and it's Ohtani out there doing all the ridiculousness on both sides, offensively and pitching wise. So it's Ohtani 100%. And yeah, the amount of money this guy's going to get, it could hit $600 million. It could. And with the Angels in contention, I don't know if they trade him. How can you trade him right now? Right now they're trying to make moves to show that, hey, we want to be contenders, and trying to keep Ohtani there not only for this year but for long term. But $500 million will be the first offer on the table, and it will go up from there.
Period. Yeah, guaranteed. I just looked up his stats for the pitching side, and yeah, you get 6 wins, but right now he's right at the 3.13 ERA, struck out 117 on his innings pitched. He's pitched only 89 innings and has 6 wins. So it's just crazy what he's doing.
All right, let's look at the National League MVP. A little bit more interesting, though. I feel like you pick the wrong person here. So I will go first. It's Ronald Acuna Jr., and the stats I put on the sheet do not include the 2 home runs he hit already in the first 2 innings today, which hurts. He has 3 home runs in the last 2 days because I'm facing him in fantasy. That's how that works. But Acuna has been absolutely phenomenal. 328 batting average, now 19 home runs with the 2 today, 35 stolen bases. He's on pace for almost 70 stolen bases this year. 68 runs scored, 49 runs batted in. To me, Acuna is by far and away, not Ohtani far and away, but far and away your MVP leader. But you went a different route.
Yeah, I went with the guy that's chasing history right now, and just because what he's doing.
It's funny that you say chasing history. I had some fun on Saturday. And we have a new graphic. The chase for history. So from our last show to today, I'm going to do my best to keep track of this. Ted Williams, obviously the last person to hit for over 400 in a year. At this point in the year, he was batting .416. Arraez, on our last show, was batting right at 400. Ted Williams over the week had some off weeks, dropped his batting average down to 412. Arraez over the week got a hit in every single game that he played. Obviously, they did not play on Monday. However, his average still dropped just a hair, still 399. The history chase is still on. But tell me more about Arraez and why you think he's the MVP.
He's up at the top of the lineup, and he's just making things happen, getting on base, stretching out doubles. He's got just one triple, but he's getting on base and causing havoc, and that's the main thing. He's only got 1 stolen base out of it, but he's been that catalyst, that spark for what what his team needs, and that's getting on base. And that's, if you're a small ball, we all like watching the home runs, but if you're a small ball person, like to watch defense and that kind of stuff, this guy is proving, he's doing the little things to get on base.
Rise right now 2 for 5, exactly 400 today against the Boston Red Sox. Let's run through a couple of these a little bit faster. AL Cy Young. I will let you go first because I do believe your pick is the front runner.
Yeah, he hands down, probably, you have to say, probably the best pitcher right now in baseball, and that's Shane McClanahan with the Rays and what he's doing. 11-1, 16 games started, 93 innings pitched, and he's got a sub 2.25 ERA. Struck out over 100 already this year, while only giving up 33 walks. So when you can keep the batting average of the opponents to under or right at the at 200, you're playing quite well and you're dominating in your position.
Yeah, I do think Shane McClanahan is your first half AL Cy Young. I'll just throw out another name just to throw stuff out there, and I do believe this is a solid second place right now for Garrett Cole, the starting pitcher for the Yankees. 8-1 on the year, a little over 100 innings pitched, 2.78 ERA. The whip and the average against pretty close with what McClanahan's been doing, 113 strikeouts. But McClanahan is doing so much right now for the Rays. Cole for the Yankees is just doing everything he can to keep the Yankees in contention while they wait for everyone to heal up. And that's why I think he will still be in the running season wide, but McClanahan definitely your first half Cy Young. NL Cy Young, it's a lot closer. But who do you got?
I'm going to take Zach Gallen. He's from Arizona, doing quite well. Another 16-game starter, 9-2 on the season, over 100 strikeouts. But he's striking out 5 for every walk he gives up. So, great numbers there. And his whip is just almost at 1.00. So what he's doing for Arizona to keep them in it, and that's kind of where I was looking at, is which pitchers are keeping their teams in the lead or in the top of their divisions.
And Gallen pitches here in about 20 minutes time, and he will be going up against Eric's Tampa Bay Rays. I'm going to go with Clayton Kershaw. For one, he's healthy. He stayed healthy to this point, which just gave him an award for that. But I talked about Garrett Cole trying to hold things together for the Yankees pitching rotation with all the injuries they had before the year. Kershaw's like the last man standing as far as the Dodgers starting rotation. They've been throwing out a bunch of rookies and just trying to make things work. Kershaw's getting it done, 9-4 on the year, 2.72 ERA, a 1.1 whip, 224 batting average against, 103 strikeouts. So just for the fact that Kershaw's healthy, I want to give him the NL Cy Young. AL Rookie of the Year is really close too. Give me Masataka Yoshida for the Boston Red Sox. Just under 300 batting average, which puts him 5th in the American League. A 372 on base percentage, which is 8th in the American League. 8 home runs, 40 runs scored, 39 RBIs. A pretty good bright spot for a Red Sox team that has been hanging around that 500 mark.
Yeah, and for me, I'm going to take a guy that I've got to watch a little bit of highlights just because he's in American League West, and that is Josh Young, the third baseman for Texas, and he is just playing lights out for rookies, leading the rookies with 15 home runs, 44 RBIs. He is just has played unbelievable at third base for the Rangers this year.
All right, NL Rookie of the Year, you have the man, so go ahead.
Yeah, and this is hands down the NL guy, and it's Corbin Carroll from Arizona. He is the other side of this. I like watching his defense a little bit more. Yeah, he's putting the numbers up, 16 home runs, just short of 290. But watching him roam around in left field, I remember watching him play. It's almost like Gonzo out there, and he's playing a lot better than what Gonzo played for the Diamondbacks.
Yes, I do believe it is Carroll here in the first half. However, give credit to Elly De La Cruz. We'll talk about what he did over this past week here shortly. But a 315 batting average, 937 OPS, 19 runs, 10 RBIs, 3 home runs, 8 stolen bases. He's only had 73 at bats this year. So he's not your first half rookie of the year, but if he continues this pace, he's going to be your NL rookie of the year by October. And that's when it really matters for sure. Really quickly through the other awards, AL Manager of the Year. We both went with managers in the East.
Yeah, Kevin Cash, what he's doing with this Tampa Bay team. Could they push the envelope and be 95 plus, 100 plus? There's a good chance.
Yeah, give me Brandon Hyde for the Baltimore Orioles. They were projected to only win 76 games.
Are you looking for a vote? Is that what you're doing?
No, he's not even here. But again, I was looking at teams that were not expected to do much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's Baltimore, 48-29. They were projected to finish under 500, and they have a stranglehold right now on that top wild card, trying to catch up to Tampa Bay for the AL East lead. So I gave him credit there. Same thing with NL Manager of the Year. Give me Skip Shoemaker of the the Miami Marlins. They're 11 games over 500, 45-34. I don't think that's right. I don't think I typed that in right, but that's a lot of games already. That's right. Yeah, 79 games. That makes sense. But the one stat that I saw when I was looking at stuff today that made me laugh, Skip Shoemaker has won 11 of 12 challenges this year. So that just shows how good of a manager he is. Again, that team was projected to only win 76 games, and they've already won 45.
Yeah, I'm going to take the guy from Arizona. I'm going to take Torey Lovulo. Who would have figured Arizona? And you hit it on the head. Right now they're plus 15. Over 500. So it's just crazy to think about the numbers that they're throwing up. They've had won 6 of the last 10. Yes, they're over their run differential, but it's not a huge amount. But what they're doing is they're winning on the road. That's the biggest part. They're 10 games over 500 on the road at 24-14. So what's happening in Arizona might be a special year.
That's very much true. How about your most surprising team?
It has to be out of the AL West, and that let's do Texas Rangers. The biggest part for me is watching what these starting pitching has done. Right now, they are 33-16 on the year. They're second in wins in the American League. They've got a 3.52 ERA, which is third. They're continuing to pitch the ball. They've got the second most innings pitched by starters at over 444 innings pitched, and what they're doing to keep the batting average of opponents down to below 235. It's just nuts seeing what this Rangers teams is doing. And I think a lot has to do with the pitching.
Yeah, I mean, as far as positivity goes, they are a very surprising team. I think both of us thought they could be a playoff team, but the fact that they have basically been leading the AL West this entire year has been pretty surprising. I'm going to go the opposite way. Biggest surprising team for me was the New York Mets. Top payroll in the league, and they're 35-43. They're 16 games behind the Atlanta Braves, 8.5 out of a wild card spot right now. This is a team that you had winning the NL East. I had them making the playoffs, and they just are a complete mess right now.
Let's just say the entire, we have to look at most of all of the league because, I was down. I know you weren't down on Atlanta, but I was down on Atlanta. Atlanta's proven me wrong this year. I have the team that I thought was going to win the World Series is dead last in the NL Central in St. Louis. So, what some of these teams are doing, what we're seeing out of these farm systems come up, and the youth of these players is just phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to make the second half really, really interesting. Again, I don't think we're going to have crazy moves at the trade deadline, just because a lot of teams are still in it, but we will see. All right, let's get into some really quick second half predictions. And this is where I was making fun of you because the question is what team leading their division right now will not make the playoffs? And you put the Cincinnati Reds, who technically
They
are not leading their division today.
They were last night when I put them in. They were leading by a half a game over Milwaukee. They lost. Milwaukee won, and it flip flopped. So, that one I still think it's going to be one of those two teams. But, boy, uh, I think Arizona probably slips out. If I can't have Cincinnati anymore since they're already taken out, I'm going to take Arizona. I don't know if they're going to be able to hold off the push now that's come from San Francisco and also LA. Yeah, right now they've got a 3-game lead, but we still got about 70 games to go.
Yeah, the big thing there is the question is, will they get knocked out of the playoffs? I think they're up. They're pretty good as far as the wild card goes, but can the Mets make a run? The Padres, maybe the Cardinals. The National League could become interesting if those teams that we thought were going to be good turn things around in the second half.
Can we say the Mets, though? I mean, they're substantially, they're sitting fourth in their division. I mean,
it's a long ways out, but the talent on that team shows that they could make a run. Cincinnati does not have that same talent. They won 12 in a row and really turn things around. That's what the Mets are going to have to find is something to click and to get things going. We will see what happens there. I'm going with Milwaukee, the team that just passed Cincinnati. I do think that whoever does not win the NL Central will not make the playoffs. So that's the easy go right now is between them and the Minnesota Twins, the two Central Division leaders. I think the Twins have a good chance of getting there. However, I may be changing my pick here for this next pick, and I'll tell you why in a second. But what team that is currently under 500 will make the playoffs?
I'm leaning right now, and it's another Central team, and I'm going to go back to the AL Central. I'm going to go to Cleveland. Cleveland proved last year how well that they could play, and the big thing is can they find their mojo? They're just at 500 at home. They've got to start winning some games, and that's their big thing is their winning series and winning in streaks and having a little bit more streakiness right now. 6-4. They just lost yesterday. It's gonna be, they have to find a streak, and I think they can. I think they've got the bats to do it.
To me, I put the San Diego Padres partially because I said they were going to win the World Series. So I would like to see a second half surge by that team. I also think they have a lot of talent. However, the team to look out for in a Central Division that is still wide open is a team that is starting to get their pitching figured out. They have a young pitcher who 3 of his last 4 starts have been absolutely fantastic. They have a pitcher who got injured last season that is 1 rehab start away from joining the squad, and that is the Detroit Tigers. Tyler Skubal about to join that squad. This is Miguel Cabrera's last year. You're seeing what Cincinnati is doing, trying to rally behind Joey Votto as he was finally able to return. Can Detroit have that same kind of a magical run? They're not too far out of it right now in the AL Central. So keep an eye on them, but I will officially pick the San Diego Padres as that team to make the second half push. But I'm interested in the Tigers right now. And then finally, real quick, what big name will get traded before the deadline?
I think it's Chapman from the Royals. I'm going to say this in doing and looking at research and all that, but yes, he's 35 years old. He's to that point where he's getting up there in age. He was the dominant closer for so long, but I think the Royals have got to be selling here pretty quick. They're already down to the bottom. You could easily find a spot for him to fit in a 8th inning reliever spot or a 7th inning reliever spot, even with his age, and get at least 1 inning or 2 to 3 batters out of a performance with him.
I think he signed with Kansas City to kind of rehab his reputation after he struggled there at the end of his contract with the Yankees. I think the Royals picked him up to be able to help him rehab his career and then send him off before the deadline. I think that one makes sense. To me, the White Sox were a team that we all thought could be a really good team. We've thought that for years, and it just has not happened. Now some of their big studs are getting close to the end of their contract. So Lucas Giolito, who's a free agent next year, I expect him to get moved. He will probably be the biggest starting pitcher to move during the deadline. Dylan Cease could also move for the White Sox. Tim Anderson, who when healthy is a fantastic bat, could move as well. I think the White Sox are going to be one of the rare sellers come the deadline, and I'm with you. I think Chapman does get moved as well. Before we get to Believe It or Not, let's get to your scoreboard update before they all change again. They are changing every 2 seconds, but we're talking about the rain delay yesterday. It's delayed again between the Reds and the Orioles. Cincinnati with a 2-1 lead. I believe that's in the 7th inning. Pirates are all over those Padres, 9-4 in the 8th. Giants with a 1-0 lead over the Blue Jays in the bottom of the 8th. A buddy of mine, Jeff Keller, is at this Miami-Boston game watching his Marlins beat up on the Red Sox 10-1.
Our John Healy is over there with his son Owen. I saw pictures there at that game right now today too.
But it's all Marlins in that one. Mets crushing the Brewers 7-0 in the 8th. Braves over the Twins 6-2 in the bottom of the 7th. They had 5 home runs in the first 2 innings, did Atlanta. Ronald Acuna had 2 of those 5 home runs. Cardinals over the Astros 4-2 in the 7th. Tigers showing that pitching, beating the Rangers right now 2-0 in the bottom of the 6th. Phillies over the Cubs 5-0 in the 6th. Scoreless between the Guardians and Royals in the 6th inning. And right now it is the Dodgers 4, Rockies nothing in the 4th. And just getting ready to start, White Sox, Angels, Yankees, Athletics, Rays, Diamondbacks, and Nationals, and Mariners. That is your scoreboard update. Anything there really shock you as far as scores right now?
You know, the one that for me looking at it, and we've talked about them, it's got to be the 7-0 lead from the Mets over Milwaukee.
Well, it's because it's now 7-2. I told you this is changing every 2 seconds.
But I mean, still for them to be that far out in front right now, I want to have some faith in the Mets and them turn this season around to get a little higher up in the standings. But it's just shocking, you know. But we're talking about the Central again and the NL Central and how it is.
Yeah, Padres losing again to the Pirates. Should not be surprising, but continues to be surprising to me. All right, let's get into some Randy's Believe It or Not.
Believe it.
I don't believe it.
And let's continue this Major League Baseball trend. And we talked about the Mets. 8.5 games out of the last wild card spot in the National League. They're not the only big payroll team struggling this year. So believe it or not, 5 of the top 10 payrolls will not make the playoffs. Right now, the Mets, Padres, Phillies, Angels, and Red Sox are top 10 payrolls and currently not in the playoffs. The other 5 teams, the Yankees, Dodgers, and Blue Jays, are only in the wild card. And the Braves and Rangers right now leading their division. So 5 of 10 currently would not make the playoffs. Will it stay that way at the end of the year?
I think it is 5 of the 10. Easily, you can probably write off the Mets. A lot depends on what happens with Arizona and San Francisco, whether or not the Dodgers can keep things going. Right now, they're sitting 3rd, but I don't see the Red Sox making a push to get ahead of the Yankees or Baltimore or Tampa Bay. So I'm going to say 5. I might say it's going to stay that way.
It could definitely be that way. The Angels right now only a half game out of the wild card, but if they make it, they're knocking out most likely either the Blue Jays or the Yankees, which is another team in that top 10. I'm with you. Mets, Padres, unless they go on a run, are basically out of it. I don't see the Red Sox doing it. Phillies, I've never really believed in. So there's 4 I don't believe in right now. And then the Angels would knock out one of the other 2 teams. So I'm going to agree with you. 5 of the top 10 payrolls will not make the playoffs this year. We will talk about the College World Series here at the bottom of this first hour, but the Major League Baseball draft is on July 9th. We will not have a show until then. So, believe it or not, LSU, which spoilers, won the College World Series, will have the top 2 picks in this year's MLB draft. Pirates have the first pick, Nationals with the second pick, then it's Tigers, Rangers, and Twins also in the top 5. But I'm just going to throw it out there. Dylan Cruz, the outfielder for LSU, who is fantastic. He had that great moment late in that game where he pointed out his ring finger after hitting a triple when that game was very much locked up. And then Paul Skeens, is it Skeens?
Mhm.
Is that how you say his last name? The pitcher who could also be the number 1 pick here in the draft. Those are the 2 that are projected to be in the top 5, but will they go 1-2?
It's hard to say whether or not they'll go 1-2, but there are a couple of guys on that Wake Forest team that got knocked out, also on Florida's team. But you're talking about the number 1 offensive player in Dylan Cruz for NCAA, unbelievable guy. And even Skeens, what he did pitching 3 times in Omaha alone, in the little bit, and they even took him out to the bullpen just in case last night. Didn't need him, but I could see maybe top 3, but I don't know if we would go 1-2. Depends on what the Tigers want to go for with everything that they're losing
Tigers are
at the
third.
end. Right. And so you've got the Nationals pitcher. So Pirates have the first pick. Yeah, I could see the Pirates going pitcher there easily. Nationals, they need to replace the bat. It could be Skeens Cruz, but I'm going to say no. I'm going to say maybe top 3.
That's fair. I'm going to believe it. I think the Tigers end up going 1, 2, and then a couple high school kids that we've never heard of will be picked after that. I also do not believe any LC Warrior will get drafted. I don't think there might not be a single current NAIA player that did not, transfer somewhere. I don't think any NAIA players will get drafted. It's just not the way things work with the 20 round format that they use now instead of the 50 some that they used to have before COVID kind of messed things up. I'm very interested to see if Trent Sellers gets drafted. He has an outside shot after transferring to Oregon State. I'll keep an eye out on that as well. And again, when we return on July 11th, Eric and I will break down some of those names. Hopefully some NAIA guys get in, because I'm getting really tired of that league getting overlooked. The talent that we see in the World Series, those guys really deserve a chance, and they just don't get it, and it's just frustrating. Another, believe it or not, Freddie Freeman will be the next player to reach the 3,000 hit milestone. He hit number 2,000 on Sunday. He is 33 years old, and he is currently 6th on the current career hit list. Miguel Cabrera is already over 3,000 hits, and then no one else is even close. Joey Votto's at 2,098, Nelson Cruz at 2,049, Elvis Andrews at 2,036, Andrew McCutchen, at 2,009 before you get to Freddie Freeman. So the big question is, do you think Freddie Freeman can get 1,000 more hits before the end of his career?
I'm such a big fan of his. I think what he's doing as the Dodgers and the respect that he gets back in Atlanta, who wouldn't want him on their team even when he gets a little bit older? I could see him playing and doing the DH thing. I'm going to say yes. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about that's 1,000 hits over if he plays 7 more years, to get to 40. But I'm going to say yes. I just like the guy, and I think it'll happen.
With the designated hitter being both American League and National League, I think you can hide Freeman in the DH spot a bit more as he gets older. Obviously, he has to stay healthy. Do I think he plays till he's 40 and plays 7 more years? That's difficult. If he plays 6 years, what does he have to do? About 180 hits a year.
If he
that's
plays
possible.
if he plays 7 years, he's got to have 142 hits each year,
And that's very possible. I mean, he can get 142.
and he's got 167 if he goes 6 years.
And that's a little bit tougher as he gets up there in age. I'm gonna say I don't believe it. Nothing against Freddie. I'm with you. I like to root for him. He seems like a very class act, but he's 33 years old. He plays a tough first base position that those guys usually don't get up there in age and continue to stay productive. But again, the designated hitter could change that, and I could be completely wrong. Also, something to think about, Jose Altuve is currently 7th on the current list. He's at 1961, 39 hits behind Freddie Freeman. He's also 33 years old. So can Jose Altuve pass Freddie Freeman and get to 3,000 first?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a possibility. You even look and I just because he's already there right now. And last year, let's look at last year's stats for Miggy. He was 39 last year, had 101 hits.
Mm-hmm.
Right now he's playing on a limited role. He's only played in 43 games at age 40, and he's got 33 hits. Mm-hmm. So we know it's a possibility, but he was already well over. He's 3,100 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, but you're right. If you can hide him someplace, but like I said, he is well received every time he's been back to Atlanta. He's just that player that everybody likes to root for and mm-hmm. what he's gone through. So I think it's a strong possibility.
Let's get to some more Major League Baseball news. Julio Rodriguez will be a part of the Home Run Derby in Seattle. Always nice to see a hometown team player play in the Home Run Derby. Julio Rodriguez has not had the season I think a lot of Mariners fans were hoping for. Could this shake him out of his slump?
You know, he was in it last year, and he kind of went into a slump after all the home runs he hit. And I think maybe he just needs to find his groove, and to do it in front of fans, it might be enough to spark the light again.
Mm-hmm. I think it will be fun. I think the Home Run Derby continues to be enjoyable. I like the head-to-head tournament style that they have kind of adopted over the last few years, and the timing system instead of outs. So we're not just watching batters take 7 or 8 straight pitches looking for a good one. There's a lot of action in it, and it's a lot of fun. And players seem to really get into it once they get into the Derby. Mike Moustakas from Colorado and Edward Escobar from the Mets both got traded to the Angels this week. Do you like those moves for LA?
You know, yeah, I think this is a statement that the Mets are making. Escobar is a great guy. I think it's going to bolster up that lineup, and I think it is a good move for the Angels who, you know what, I think they're tired of sitting down where they're at, and I think they're tired of, you know, watching Mike Trout and Shohei not come and make it into the postseason. This could be a little bit of a push to see them get into the postseason.
Also, it really makes you worry about some of their injured players. Obviously, Gio Urshela had the injury. Was it neck or back that Urshela was going through? Obviously, one of them probably replaces him. Anthony Rendon is always hurt. So you got to think Moustakas is there for him as well. But it's a good job by the Angels making moves now before, you know, some of these price tags get up. And obviously, injuries kind of pushed them towards making this move. Speaking of the Angels, they outscored the Rockies 32-12 in a 3-game set, and they lost the series. They won game 2 of that series 25-1. They scored 23 runs in the first 4 innings. I switched over to that game in the 4th inning, and I was listening to the Colorado commentators. And the 4th inning, it was either the 4th or 5th inning got done. And the 3rd out gets recorded, and you just hear him go, and don't look at the score. We'll be right back. It was just deflated. Just don't look. It's just, we're just playing through this game. The score doesn't matter anymore. But still, Colorado wins the other 2 games. So the Angels become just the 2nd team in Major League Baseball history to lose a series with a plus 20 run differential. The other team, I should save this question for when Eric and Denny do their trivia game, which I've been working on. But the other team, 1897 Chicago Colts, who outscored the Louisville Colonels 45-22, but lost that series 2-1. Eric or Denny, if you are watching, you are happy to know I saved you from that trivia question. And the trivia questions that I have for your guys' challenge, most of it is put together and ready to go. It's not that hard. I'm not going to be that rude to you guys. And then finally, we talked about him earlier in the show, Elly De La Cruz hit for the cycle on Friday. It's the first cycle for Cincinnati since 1989. It ends the longest drought by any major league team. Kansas City now has the longest drought. Their last one was in 1990. Miami's never had a cycle, but they didn't become a Major League Baseball team until 1993. And the last to do it for the Reds was Eric Davis. So my big question to you is, I forget who I was listening to. They were talking about this cycle over the weekend. Is there any more exciting play than somebody hitting a triple for the cycle?
I think that's the key one. That's just, you know what you got to do and to get a pitch to be able to handle it and to get the triple. Unbelievable. And it's just exciting to see how this player plays. I mean, he is just all out 100% all the time in the few highlights that I have seen. And I want to say, so this was on Friday, right?
Yes.
So, and I think they've played 3 games since. So I believe he is the fastest player in Major League history to hit for the cycle. Am I right?
I'm not sure. I did not see that
Because
one.
he's only had 19 games as of right now, looking at stats right now, 19 total games. So he's got to be, that would have put him at 15 or 16 games. So he's got to be the quickest person to ever hit a cycle in his career.
Looking at, I don't know. That did not rank the way I wanted it to rank. By the numbers, here we go. If it will load. Becoming one of the youngest players, both in age and experience. So as far as age goes, he's the 5th youngest. Mel Ott in 1929 was younger. Cliff Heathcote for the Cardinals back in 2018 was younger. A couple others. And the age. Let's see. De La Cruz on the above list. 3 had already accrued at least a season of service time. Oh, Cliff Heathcote did it in 6 games. Yeah, Heathcote, he was in his 6th game. For De La Cruz, it was his 15th game.
That's just crazy.
So it was the 3rd fastest in that route. Still pretty cool. And De La Cruz is just taking over Cincinnati by storm. He's really, really fun to watch. Also, shout out to John Sadak. We played, did we play his home run call for De La Cruz? I know I sent it to a bunch of people about the baseball having a family. I don't know if I played it on this show, but I know I sent it to a bunch of people. He had a great call for the cycle as well. You go ahead and hit the quick hits real quick. I'm going to pull that up.
Yeah, so and the other part about that guy, I mean, he's 6'5", 200 pounds, and for him to fly around the bases the way he did, just unbelievable. Julio Rodriguez, if you did not watch this, he hit a home run on Saturday, and then Anthony robbed the home run, and then he had a home run robbed by Anthony Santander. It was crazy to hear both of those go off. I don't know if you saw the video of David Ortiz gifting Derek Jeter a Boston Red Sox jersey number 2 and it had Jeter's name on the back, and he
tossed it away.
Jeter threw it off of the camera, and he said he was going to be the last time he would be there, laughing and joking, but it was funny. It was crazy. I did not get to watch any of it, but we had our first London play between the Cubs and the Cardinals. Did you catch any of those games?
Just the highlights of them. Obviously, that's where Derek Jeter and David Ortiz had done their jerseys thing. They were there calling, or they were being the broadcast team for that game. So I didn't get to watch most of it. It's still tough to top the Yankees and Red Sox, where they scored a bajillion runs in that series. But here is that call here by John Sadak for the Reds of De La Cruz hitting the cycle. He may be one of my favorite play-by-play guys right now.
Opportunities. De La Cruz, right center. Down base hit. Could he go free? India around third. India scores. It's a cycle.
He just has fun. A lot of energy by that guy. It's so good. So good. 7th cycle in Reds history by De La Cruz. All right, let's get into your weekly awards. My standout batter how about Ketel Marte, second baseman for Arizona, 10 of 29, batted .345 on the week, 12 runs batted in, 9 runs scored, and 4 home runs for the second baseman.
You had the big guy this week, I think, hands down, that guy. But I'm going to go with the Houston third baseman, Alec Bregman. He hit the ball 7 of 21, 9 RBIs, 2 home runs, and 4 runs scored. But how do you take it away from Marte? That's my question.
Right. How about your standout pitcher?
I'm going to go with Kikuchi, from the starting pitcher from Toronto. 1-0 in his 2 starts, 0.69 ERA, 13 innings pitched, gave up just 4 hits, and struck out 14 while holding opponents to a 0.98 batting average.
Yeah, pretty good. How about Kyle Bradish, the starting pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles? 2-0 on the week, 12 innings pitched, 6 hits. Did give up 4 runs, but 4 walks, 15 strikeouts. Batters hit just 146 against Bradish. All right, let's get into our power rankings. We're going to go alternate format here this week, as once again, our top 4, it's the same 4 teams. Are they going to be in the same order? And then the 5th team gets really interesting. But you copied me, sir. I will let you let you say it first. But you did copy me. We have a new number 1 in our power rankings.
Yeah, and it's just because, I was down on them all year. I keep saying it. I was down on them. But listen, Atlanta is just proving to be unbelievable. You had Acuna there a few minutes ago. Albies being back has been playing quite well. So I think that is an easy number 1, especially where they have been over the last little bit. And your graphics not up.
Oh yeah, you're right. Nobody's here to watch anyways. Who cares? Braves number 1 for both of us. I agree. They're the hottest team in baseball right now. Acuna has been absolutely phenomenal. Their pitching staff is red hot as well. They do not have the same record as Tampa Bay, but they are the better team right now. So they are number 1 for both of us. And we both have the Rays number 2.
Yeah, and I think you have to say that too, because, the only reason for me, I think it has to be over the last 10 days. We look at how hot they've been. 9-1. The Rays just right at 500.
Hey, and even the Rays fan can understand it. Eric understands, and it's still close. Obviously, the Rays still have a big lead in the AL East. No slight on them, but they put us just ahead of the Baltimore Orioles, who continue to surprise people and hang in there. And that is why we both have them number 3. And really, like we've said for weeks, it's a 4-team race. So Texas is our 4th team this week. Who do you got at your 5 spot?
I am going to keep Arizona in the talking right now. Arizona just has been proving that they are doing quite well, 6-4 over the last 10. And I said to it a little bit ago, as much as we're watching some of these other teams slowly start ascending up the rankings, Arizona has got to find a little bit more run differential. They've got to be scoring a few more runs, and I think they're one of the lower run differentials that are leading their division.
While Arizona is leading the NL West, they are not fifth in my power rankings. I gave it to the San Francisco Giants. Yes, they are second in the West right now, but like we said with the Braves, they are playing much better baseball than the Diamondbacks right now. They just got another win today. So while they're not above the Diamondbacks in the standings, as what's his face says on First Things First, this is not the standings. This is the power ranking. So give me the Giants at number 5. Real quick, hit us with what all happened at the College World Series.
So if you did not watch any of it, you missed out on a lot of great defense. You said it a few minutes ago. Game 1 was unbelievable, tight, contested games. Even the opening few plays of the opening rounds, close games in all of them. But LSU and Florida game, and it was unbelievable to watch these guys play. Like we talked about, Skeens and Cruz, two of the top players for LSU, and you've got a few of the others for Florida with Langford, Caglione. Unbelievable. He even pitched yesterday and batted, but it was a great series to watch. LSU ends up knocking off Florida in 3 games, picks up their 7th College World Series title, and ends up winning that in 3 games. And so they're at number 2 all along. A little trivia. I don't have Denny's not on us. I was going to ask you trivia here. Who's the number 1 team with the most World Series?
Oregon State.
Series? Yeah, that is. Yeah, Oregon State I think had 5 in looking it up, but that's they're behind USC, who has 12 championships, and they had a 5-year stand between 70 and 74 where they won it every year. So unbelievable. We talked a little bit about it. Skeens come out and pitch quite well in these games. Also, Ty Floyd struck out 17 in game 1, and that's why we had such the low scoring 4-3 in that one. But they've got a couple of other players in this team with Riley Cooper, who came out of the pen and pitched quite well, closed out games, and I think he could easily be drafted, if not this year, next year with that one. Cade Belloso, unbelievable player. We talked about him. Tommy White, Braden Jobert, some big names out of LSU. Watch these 2 teams over the next 2 years, and I have to agree with what he did in this tournament, and the most outstanding player went to Paul Skeens. So if you have not watched any of the highlights from them, go back to NCAA, click on the baseball link and watch all of the extended highlights from all 3 of those games. You won't be disappointed in that. We won't talk about the 18-4 game number 3 or the
game number 2 was a blowout too.
24-4 game with Florida winning that one, but
neither game was close. But that's
the weather too, and they did talk a lot about the weather. When the wind blows out in Omaha, it makes a huge difference.
You are watching the R&R Sports Report right here on our Facebook page, YouTube, maybe my Twitter. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Don't forget, next week we will be off for the 4th of July, and then on July 11th when we return, Robert Hagan will not be here. It'll be Eric Watkins taking his place. Again, I was hoping to get the kickoff reunion, but Harry will be out of town. But Eric will step in. We'll have a lot of fun. Everyone knows who the winner was the Jell-O shots. Oh, boy. All right. Speaking of food, good segue. Good segue, Eric. It is now time for the sports-related draft. I am leading the overall series 25-16. I've won the last 2, including last week with the biggest NBA draft busts. It is Robert's turn to pick the topic.
And listen, I wanted to have fun. I knew we weren't going to be here for the 4th of July. And when you talk about the 4th of July, that the biggest thing, after I get my cup of coffee and by the time I sit down, it is time to watch Joey Chestnut and what that dude can do in competitive eating contests. So I thought, heck, there's enough other contests. Let's see if we can rank them the best competitive eating contest that is not the Nathan's hot dog eating contest at Coney Island. So with that being said, there was a lot. I don't know if you went and looked at some of the
There's so many.
But I picked the topic, and so that means you get to go first, sir.
Yeah, I'm still mad at you for picking this topic and then taking the for sure easy number one pick out. But
that's
it did
why I
make
took it out.
Yeah, because you're a chicken and you're scared of me winning my third in a row. However,
talking about chicken, don't get into my first
I had a lot of fun with mine. We don't watch any of these competitions, so I'll just say that right now. I'll watch the hot dog eating contest just because it's a 4th of July tradition. There's a lot of times I don't watch it live, but I'll go back and see how crazy it was. So I had some fun with mine. I went with the legit one at first with my very first pick, and that's just because who doesn't love bacon, right? Who doesn't love bacon? So the Birkwood Farms Bacon Eating Contest is my number one pick because it's bacon, and bacon wins all.
Sign me up. I'd love to do a bacon eating contest. I would even do that. I probably take a few years off my life by how many pieces of bacon you eat, but good one. Hey, I'm gonna go with the most dominant guy that eats, and one of his other records he has, and that's Joey Chestnut. It has to be the Hooters worldwide wing eating competition. I agree. Bacon makes everything better. The worldwide wing eating contest in Clearwater, Florida. Joey Chestnut holds a record for 184 wings in 10 minutes.
It doesn't make the contest better. It just makes Joey Chestnut a freak.
Dude, he has to be a freak with some of the
100%. And now this is where my draft goes off the rails in one of two ways. Either whoever is watching and voting, Eric, thank you so much for hopping back on to at least give us our one vote today. But obviously with the summer, a lot of people off doing stuff. I didn't want to just go with your normal eating contest. So I found some fun ones, and this is where we go. There is a thing called the zombie pub crawl. All right. And because it's about zombies, what do they eat at the zombie pub crawl? How about the world brain eating competition? And speaking of your boy, there's Joey Chestnut eating some brains. There you go. Brain eating competition is my second pick.
You're just trying to make it gross. I don't know.
Just wait. You think brains are gross? Just wait till my third pick.
Well, I'm gonna ask, what is the weirdest thing that you have ever eaten?
I don't know. I've not eaten brains.
If I told you, you'd probably really get. I have eaten Rocky Mountain oysters.
That's gross. No,
thank you. And so there's been some weird things, but I'm gonna go with one that I actually ate in. I ate in this restaurant years ago, and it's in New Orleans. And you have to go with the oyster eating contest and the Black Widow, Sonia Thomas, and she ate there.
Oh yes,
really. I did not include them in the draft pick. I did not include them in the draft pick, so you can't.
It's still oysters. It's still oysters.
But I am going at the Acme Oyster Company World Eating Championship. Sonia Thomas, the Black Widow, eating 46 dozen oysters in 10 minutes. That's still a record from 2014.
Gross. Absolutely gross. But there's something grosser.
I can't wait to see this picture.
It's not of them eating them. It's just I could not believe they do this.
I
But how
told
about-
Denise about it last night.
How about the National Harbor World Peeps eating contest or eating championship? And I only put this on here for one reason and one reason only. Can you imagine what the bathroom looks like after this competition? It's going to be a very colorful bathroom. You're welcome. That's my third pick. Peeps. They eat a bunch of peeps. Diabetes instantly if you compete in this competition.
Wilford Bremling's gonna just be there 100%. I had to stay with it, and I went back to another one that Joey Chestnut was involved in, and it has to be the Daily Foods World Gyoza Eating Championship and the basically dumpling eating contest.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the biggest number: 384 dumplings in 10 minutes. Listen, I like me some dumplings. It takes me forever to eat 8 dumplings in an order at one of our restaurants in the Valley, Mandarin Pine. But imagine doing that multiple times. I don't think I could do it, but gotta love me some dumplings. So
there you go. Let us know who wins the best competitive eating competition that is not Nathan's hot dog eating competition. I took Berkwood Farms Bacon Eating Contest, the World Brain Eating Competition at the Zombie Pub Crawl, and the National Harbor World Peeps Eating Championship. While Robert took the Hooters Worldwide Wing Eating Championship, the Acme Oyster Eating World Championship, and the Daily Foods World, how do you say that?
Gyoza
Eating Championship. They're pot stickers to me.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Who wins this week? Not our stomachs. Our stomachs do not win this week. Plain and simple. Let us know in the comments down below. Speaking of drafts, I told you it was going to go one of two ways for me. It was either people are going to respect my creativity or they were just going to be grossed out. And I'm cool with not winning this week. Absolutely fine. That is okay. One vote is for Robert. We'll see if anyone else hops on and lets us know that they like the grossness and then they want to go my route. NBA draft was last week. As expected, Victor Wembanyama ends up going to San Antonio. Brandon Miller goes to the Hornets. Scoot Henderson to the Blazers. And then the Thompson brothers. Eamon Thompson and Azur Thompson go to the Rockies and Pistons, respectively. As far as the local boys, Julian Strother for Gonzaga goes to Indiana late in the first round with the 29th pick. And Muhammad Guy for WSU goes to Charlotte with the 39th pick. They're in the second round. Drew Timme goes undrafted but does sign with the Milwaukee Bucks. Surprised Timme does not get drafted?
I was a little shocked that he didn't get drafted, but he was signed quite quickly after the draft happened. So I think they just wanted to hold it. And with what they're going to pay him, I think he's going to be happy there in Milwaukee for a few years. Who wouldn't be to play next to one of the greater players in Giannis? So
yeah.
it'll be,
and that's he'll probably be in the G League and stuff at the beginning and try to build things up. And I think if you don't get drafted in the first round, you don't want to be drafted because then you can pick which team you're going to sign with, and that'll be fine with Timme. Is he going to be a star in the NBA? Probably not. Could he be a role player? Possible. We will see. It's always tough with the NBA because they only have the 2 rounds. And a lot of times there's only 4 or 5 players, period, out of every draft that really turns into something. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Let's get into our third topic of the show as we start to get ourselves ready for the National Football League season to get underway. We'll start breaking down different positions and different players and who ranks where, getting into it, and then we'll get into all the divisional matchups and our predictions. once we get into August. But let's start with the defenses here, not just players, just overall teams. Which 5 defenses stand out to you, Robert Hagan?
Well, I think we're probably going to be in agreement with probably our top 3 pretty easily, with San Francisco leading the way. Third fewest points in the fourth quarter, average allowed only right at 75 yards rushing. So I think that team right now is got to be the clear number 1. I'm going to go Philadelphia number 2. And I'm going to put Dallas, and I hate saying it, but Dallas has got a decent defense there. I'm going to put them at number 3. But you can't go wrong with Diggs, Micah Parsons, what they did last year. You keep our local boy Leighton Vander Esch in there, and he just keeps getting better and better and better in what they do with that team. And then I'm going to put your team number 4. I think
Too low.
Well, and I think it's just because
Too low.
Nah. So I think as long as they're in the top 5, I think there are going to be huge again this year, especially with a new coach. They are a new quarterback there, and I know we're talking about defense, but they're going to keep them off of the field a little bit more recoup time. They're able to do things
Will
there.
you stop reading my notes? God damn it!
No, I'm not looking. I'm trying to get to my other ones, and the other one, and you're going to laugh about it, but I'm going to play Homer, and I'm going to put the Baltimore Ravens at number 5. Yes, and people are going to say, "Why would you put Baltimore there?" Listen, the last about 8 games that they played, they had one of the best second halves that they had in a long time. They kept average of players to other teams to 192 yards passing. They, for every 4 touchdowns, they were able to get 3 interceptions in their ratio there. And their average run was they gave up 3.8 yards per play. So, and that was during the last 6-7 series. So, I mean, they just grew on it. And you've got players like Smith in there, and now you get a few other new fits in there. I think it's going to be a team to be reckoned with, especially with Rock.
You hope.
Yeah, I hope.
You hope. All right, let's get into my top 5. I will agree with you. The San Francisco 49ers do have the best defense coming into this year. Allowed just 77.7 rushing yards a game last year, 3.4 yards a carry. Third fewest points allowed in the fourth quarter. You know, that's important as you get into those tight ball games late. They do have to have a new defensive coordinator, which a lot of these great defenses had to switch things around as coaches get hired as head coaches elsewhere. But Steve Soaks comes in from Carolina. Panthers had an okay defense last year. I think with the weapons that he will have here for the 49ers, he will do just fine. Obviously, Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead were banged up last year. Have them come back healthy. The 49ers, to me, have the best defense. I will also agree that the Philadelphia Eagles will have the second best defense, but maybe not as close to as a 2-team runaway as I think a lot of people have it ranked right now. But Sean Desai will take over for Jonathan Gannon. He takes over a squad that had 70 sacks last year. They had 4 players in double-digit sacks. Darius Slay and James Bradbury, fantastic at the quarterback position. This defense is going to be really good, and that's why the Eagles are once again going to be contenders in the NFC this year. And then it is my New York Jets. Second fewest points allowed last year, 18.6 points a game. Second lowest average passer rating last year at 80.5. And that was with a super young defense that did not have Carl Lawson. And Lawson will be back. Obviously, they drafted Will McDonald IV to even add even more to that pass rush. Sauce Gardner is a year older and will just continue to get better. And I'm with you that having that veteran quarterback is really going to help them not be in really tough situations and bad field position. And it's just going to help that defense play even better. I have the Jets third here. I would not be shocked if we talked about the end of the year. We both did not say they were the best defense in 2023, but I will put them at third for now. Dallas Cowboys will be my fourth team. They really went after the quarterback, 25.5% pressure rate, which led all of the National Football League. They had 54 sacks. You brought them up. Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs were absolutely fantastic. They added Stephon Gilmore in the offseason, which really helps that secondary. And add that with that great defensive line. Things are going to be absolutely fantastic for Dallas. And it's going to be a really fun NFC East, I think, this year. We'll get into that next month for sure. And then my number 5 team, I wanted to go a little bit unorthodox, and then you went even more unorthodox. But how about the Pittsburgh Steelers? They get overlooked. They come back and they finish above 500 last year because that's just what they do. T.J. Watt, Ahkello Witherspoon, and Minkah Fitzpatrick, all missed time last year. Hopefully they can all stay healthy. They added Patrick Peterson, who is not, tip-top prime Patrick Peterson, but in that defense, he will be good. They drafted a lot of defense in the draft, including Joey Porter Jr. You brought up Baltimore's great second half of the season. How about Pittsburgh, where the QB rating against them was 76.3 in their final 7 games? They had 21 sacks in those last 7 games, which really helped them get back over 500 at the end of the year. The AFC North is another division to me that is going to be really interesting, and probably even more interesting because I think all 4 teams have a legit case to win that division. I think if anybody came out and predicted any of those 4 teams to win that division, I could not poo-poo it completely. Like, I can disagree. I'm going to disagree when you pick Baltimore to win that division. However, you can make a strong case for the Ravens, just like people can with the Steelers, just like you can with the Browns, just like you can with the Bengals. That division is going to be a lot of fun.
They talked about it. I forget, what is it? Speak Your Mind. Is that the show on FS1? The one with Joy Taylor, Deshaun, Shady. I forget.
There's so many different ones on there.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Anywhere, that was their conversation. Is you were looking at some of these teams that make that are going to win 10 games that won't make the playoffs, and they think that all 4 of these teams in this division have a great chance of winning 10 games. But then you look at, okay, which 2 of these probably will not make the playoffs? And I think still to this day, we always talk about which division has the greatest rivalries, and I still think that it's going to be it's going to be the AFC North. But it'll be interesting once we see the season getting going, who's going to be the front runner in this group, especially with Joe Burrows, with where these guys are going in the future. So,
are there any other defenses that we missed that you think could end up being top 5 defenses this year?
There's a couple that I still don't understand how a couple of people think Miami is as high up as they are. I think they could easily be top 10. One of them I saw they had them at number 5. The one that might throw you a little bit might be Washington. What can they do? Chase Young was struggling in the first season, also had the tear, but they've upgraded in their defense. That one's going to be a little interesting going into the next couple of seasons.
Who's the most overrated defense? I'm just trying to update the scoreboard real quick. So,
man, I think it's probably going to be New England. I think New England, they're on a rebuild, and they're just giving them so much love with what they can do. Their consistency. I think that's the biggest part, is they've got to be consistent and come away with some wins, but that's also going to put pressure on Mac Jones. And I think that's the biggest part, is how can Mac Jones help out this offense by keeping its defense well rested. And we talked about it's the same thing with New York. I think with Aaron Rodgers going there, it's going to be a huge lift for their defense. And I think that's the biggest thing. But how do you prove that with a third-year guy, Mac Jones?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you. New England was another one of the teams I thought about putting in my top 5 as far as defenses go, just because of Bill Belichick and what he is able to perform. They could slip a little bit, and we'll see how things go. We'll hit on some of that is true. Our rest in peace to Ryan Mallett. Yeah, it looks like he was in a drowning accident that was released just a little bit ago. That's rough to see. We'll hit some free agency stuff here real quick, but let's look at the scoreboard one more time here. For Major League Baseball, Reds and Orioles still delayed in the 7th inning. Reds with a 2-1 lead. Final so far, Pirates beat the Padres 9-4. Giants over the Blue Jays 3-0. Again, the Marlins over the Red Sox 10-1. Mets get a big win over the Brewers 7-2. Braves over the Twins 6-2. Cardinals help out your Seattle Mariners. They beat the Astros 4-2. Going on right now, the Tigers had the lead. Rangers come all the way back. They have a 4-3 lead in the bottom of the 8th. Phillies over the Cubs 5-1 in the 9th. Royals with a 1-0 lead over the Guardians in the 9th inning. Dodgers all over the Rockies 5-0 in the 6th. And then early on, Angels over the White Sox 1-0 in the 3rd. Oakland leading the Yankees 1-0 in the 3rd. Arizona scored 5 runs with Zach Gallen on the mound. It looked like it was going to be an easy day for the Diamondbacks. But the Rays scored 4 runs in the 2nd inning against Zach Gallen. It's a 5-4 game now as they go to the bottom of the 2nd inning, and your Seattle Mariners are up over the Nationals 2-1 in the 3rd.
Teoscar Hernandez, a 2-run shot there in the bottom of the 1st inning. So sucks I can't watch any of it.
Yeah, there you go.
Stupid Root Network.
All right, let's get into it. Your 4th topic of the show. Big names are still out there in free agency. Some of these names, maybe all of these names, may not get signed before training camp gets going, which will make things really interesting. So let's go through them. And once again, we're going to predict where we think they're going to go, because we need to fill slots on this show. And it just seems to be a very fluid situation. And let's start with the main guy, Dalvin Cook. And I will go first because I put the Miami Dolphins at first. However, Tyler Conklin was apparently on the NFL Network, and he was asked if there was room in that backfield for Dalvin Cook on the New York Jets. And he went, absolutely. We will take anybody that will help us try to win a Super Bowl. And Dalvin Cook retweeted a tweet talking about it with 2 100% emojis. Now, yes, there's a lot of good running backs in the backfield for the Jets. Breece Hall coming off of his ACL tear. Maybe they want to limit his action at least early on. Michael Carter's pretty good. The Jets just drafted a rookie that they would probably try to get in there, but he could be more of a special teams guy. But you know what? It doesn't matter who's in your backfield. If Dalvin Cook is available, he's not going to be the bell cow back. But that is one fantastic talent. So I'm all in. I was with this with I almost said Brett Favre, but with Aaron Rodgers, the other Packer that went to the Jets. I was all in with Aaron Rodgers. I'm all in now. Dalvin Cook to the New York Jets. Make it happen.
You did have Miami there earlier in the notes today, because I did looked at it
until I saw what was going on with Tyler Conklin and the tweet that Dalvin Cook made.
I think he could be that running back that could help turn a team around with some leadership. And yeah, he's still fairly young. I mean, as far as running back age, he is getting to the older side of that. But listen, how about he goes down to Arizona, playing some sunshine, plays behind James Conner, and a little
Absolutely not.
1-2 punch of James Conner and him. You've got Marquise Brown. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I
What
think it could be a good 1-2 punch with Conner and him.
what is Arizona trying to do this year? Tank.
Well,
They have 2 draft picks that could be top 5 draft picks. They're not going to mess that up by getting Dalvin Cook. And by the way, Dalvin Cook would not run behind James Conner. Stop it. Absolutely not. It's not happening. He's going to the AFC East. It's going to be the Dolphins or the Jets. I believe it. And we will see where it goes. How about Ezekiel Elliott? Where does he go?
Well, you took the team, and I'm kind of doing the same thing you did with our other. You took the team. I think he's gonna play at, but I'm gonna say New England, just for the simple fact is he could be a benefit to Ramondre Stevenson. Stevenson did have a great season running the ball. It has always been a committee running there. Why not add a little bit of veteran leadership and put Zeke in a Patriots uniform and playing for Bill Belichick?
It's because I think at this point, I think he goes back home. I think he's going to go back to the Cowboys. He will take a smaller deal. I think Pollard might be the lead back, even in that situation. And Elliott will kind of be the change of pace back or the third down back. They may completely flip roles. But I think Elliott went out and tested the market, and the market went, nah, which is what they've done with all of the running backs. And he may end up back with Dallas. He's still very close with Dak Prescott, and they're still working out together. So I think that gets done. I do think the Patriots will get a running back, but I think it'll be Leonard Fournette. Fournette will end up being with the Patriots. Where do you think he goes?
I think he goes to the Chargers. I really do. You look at having an extra guy there that Justin Herbert can rely on. Yes, he would be behind Eckler, but that would be a great balance because you get behind there. Who do you have behind him except for Isaiah Spiller and Joshua Kelly? So I mean, really, it could be that extra little added momentum that Fournette, he's a downhill runner and can plow through there. That could be a huge benefit to Herbert. Hand the ball off, get you 3 or 4 yards every time.
Another running back that is still out there on the market, Kareem Hunt, who has shown to be a pretty good change of pace back there with Cleveland. And there's a team that just got rid of a great running back because they believe their second running back could be the main guy. So why not bring in a change of pace back for Madison in Minnesota? Let's go Kareem Hunt to the Vikings. That is my prediction now.
That's a good spot, but I'm going to go one different just a little bit just because Broncos country, let's ride. Send him up there.
Don't
Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams was still going to be nursing that injury from his ACL. There is a huge upside for Hunt to go and start, the first 3 or 4 games until Williams gets his feet under him after having that major injury. I can see that happening.
All right, let's go to the wide receivers. Obviously, the big one out there on the market right now, DeAndre Hopkins. It does seem like the only 2 teams that are really interested are the Tennessee Titans and the New England Patriots. Funny that neither of us picked those 2 teams as the pick. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns. Get him reacquainted with Watson out there with Cleveland and really try to push to win that division.
I'm going to go even. He has had meetings with Bill Belichick in New England. I'm going to stay in the East, and I'm going to say the Buffalo Bills. Even with everything going on with Buffalo Bills, with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, we know Stephon wants to be the number 1 guy there. There could take some pressure off for a little bit of different coverages with that. Defensively speaking, they've got to cover 1 or 2. I think they could easily I really think that Hopkins could help this team, get an extra win or 2 and a little bit further down in the playoffs.
Hopkins will not go to Buffalo because Jarvis Landry is going to go to Buffalo. I do think that they're going to go out and try to get another weapon, another wide receiver for Josh Allen. Maybe try to take some pressure off of Stephon Diggs, allow him to kind of do the routes that he wants to do while you still get some more talent out there. I don't think it'll be Hopkins. Landry to Buffalo is my prediction.
No, he's going to land in there and help out Drake London in Atlanta. They've got to do something. Kyle Pitts and him could easily be a good 1-2 receiver with a tight end package with helping out Desmond Ridder. So I think Atlanta has to do something offensive-wise with a weapon. And Landry is a little bit on the older side, but I think he could be a little bit of more of a help to Drake London there in his second season too.
The one quarterback I have on this list, Carson Wentz, has come out and said he has no problem being back up now. How about let's send him to Arizona? Kyler Murray can never stay healthy, so let's just throw Carson Wentz out there to lose all our games.
I'm going to say Cincinnati. That'd be a great place for him to just sit behind Joe Burrow and be a scout guy and run scout for this defense that I think is going to take a step up for the Cincinnati Bengals this year.
How about Jadeveon Clowney? Let's go defense here.
I think it's going to be a team that came on last year. Everybody kind of got on them of how well they were playing and play on the other side of James Houston. And that's going to be Detroit. I think Detroit is making steps to get down and not be that team in that division with Green Bay and Chicago. They're going to make a difference this year. And I think that would help that team out immensely, is having another edge rusher.
Just because we've seen in the National Football League that the rich just get richer. How about the best defense in the league, the San Francisco 49ers, adding Jadeveon Clowney? Just because that's how the world works. How about Marcus Peters? You know him a little bit.
I was going to say, hold on. Do you see him splitting time with Bosa and Armstead and Jackson? I just don't see him sitting there. Yeah, I don't know if that works out or not. Listen, I'm not a Marcus Peters fan. I'm kind of glad he is leaving. Just his defense has taken a couple of steps back over the last 2 years in Baltimore. I think he just plays to be on the field. I think he goes to Atlanta. He could really shore up that defense back there right now, especially with going and playing with Calais Campbell, who he just played with Baltimore, but helping out AJ Terrell, who was a huge asset to Atlanta last year.
So what you're trying to say to Marcus Peters is...
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
I am saying that. You're not that guy. He's not that guy at all.
I had no idea where to put him, so I sent him to Vegas. Let him go have fun there with the Raiders. Finally, Yannick Ngakoue. You can't pick a defensive player or any of these defensive players and not send one to Seattle. The Seahawks always are in the mix for some of these guys. So I had to pick one. So the Seahawks get Ngakoue. That's my pick.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. He played in Baltimore too, was really good there. But I think he goes to Kansas City. Why wouldn't you want to go and play with Chris Jones and Willie Gay and those guys there? That just makes that defense even better.
The rich get richer. Last little bit here on the National Football League. It's not official yet, but the New York Jets are preparing themselves to be forced to do Hard Knocks. I believe there's only 4 teams that are technically in the running to be on Hard Knocks unless another team volunteered. It's like based on how long you've not made the playoffs and if you have a rookie coach and this and that. I think there were 4 teams. It was the Jets, it was the Commanders, the Saints, and some other team that was not interesting. I think maybe the Bears. I think it was the Bears were the other team in there that the NFL could force to be on Hard Knocks. The Jets, I think, are the obvious choice with Aaron Rodgers going there. I know the Jets definitely do not want that because they're already enough of a distraction right now, and they're already getting all of the headlines. So why add even more with HBO roaming the hallways? But what do you think of the New York Jets possibly playing the Hard Knocks team this year?
You know, you said it a second ago. There's already been enough coverage here with the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. Maybe it's an insight to be able to watch and see what happens. I am interested in that defense of yours, what Williams did and those guys, and how much they keep growing. I think it'd be great, but to be forced to do it, that's another story. I would think they've got to come up with a way, to maybe they have to rotate through all of the teams, that signs up a long contract with all these, but go back to how many episodes have went through since, 2001 when Baltimore was after their championship.
And again, they try to get teams that weren't in the playoffs and watch them rebuild. I think it's the more interesting. Again, watching some of the videos that the Jets do on their social media stuff, it's a very fun team. So it could be really interesting to see as far as an HBO special goes. So I'm down to watching it, but we just don't need more distractions. However, if HBO would like to pay for Dalvin Cook's contract to then come to the New York Jets, then I'm down for it. I mean, if we have a positive that way, I think I am okay. Let's get into some Aussie rules football. Again, there were only 6 games as we finish out the rest of the bye weeks, but technically there were only 4 games. I think that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because 2 games were non-existent. We will hit on those first. My Hawthorne Hawks scored the first 18 points. They were up 18-0. I was feeling good while watching this game at work. And then they got outscored 101-16. I don't know if I watched the rest of the first half before giving up. I don't know if I watched Hawthorne get back inside the inside 50-meter circle after scoring the first 3 goals. The defense of Gold Coast became amazing the rest of the way. Luckily, Hawthorne was not the biggest blowout of the week. That goes to West Coast, which is just a straight embarrassment of a team. As Eric pointed out, it was 52-6 at quarter time. Sydney goes on to blow out West Coast 205-34. And Eric, please resend that stat you sent me earlier this week. The main tiebreaker for positioning goes to percentage of points scored. And Sydney, I want to say, went up like 13% on that game alone. I forget exactly what it was. Eric is the one that sent it to me earlier this week. He will comment it there, but those were not games.
No, and listen, 58-6 after the first quarter, and then it was 93-25 after the second one. It was hard watching just the highlights. It was crazy to see what this team was doing to West Coast.
A couple other results. Fremantle took out Essendon 93-61. Good one between Collingwood and Adelaide. Collingwood gets the 82-80 win. Brisbane takes out St. Kilda 84-56. And your Geelong Cats got a big win against the Melbourne Demons 78-63. What stood out to you there?
Oh, my God. To be able to in and out the way that this team has been playing this year, but going against Melbourne, who has been consistent and has had some great games, it was great to come away with a big win. But for Geelong to start out quick, it needed to happen.
I'm complaining about Giancarlo Stanton to our buddy Richie, who's a Yankee fan too. He's so bad to watch. It's just brutal. Your ladder right now in Aussie rules, the top spot switches again because it was Port Adelaide who was on the bye week this week. So Collingwood moves back up into the top spot. Brisbane moves up to the 3. Nobody that was outside the top 8 moved in, but it's getting really interesting. We have 9 weeks to go in the regular season. Geelong, Gold Coast, Fremantle all tied with Adelaide as far as points scored. It just comes down to their percentage of points scored in a game. It's really close there. Sydney again jumped up 13% on theirs. They're only 4 points out right now. You take out the bottom 3, Hawthorn, North Melbourne, and West Coast. There's a lot of teams that could still make a late run and make the finals.
Yeah, but you got to look at the top 4 teams right now, and what these 4 teams have done over this year has been unbelievable. Crazy to watch Collingwood, crazy to watch Port Adelaide. It's like they've taken 5 steps ahead this year of all of their competitors. It has not been close on a lot of these games, and so, but like you said, between 5 to 11, 12, 2 weeks, and we've got a whole different ball game.
Let's talk about some of the games that are coming out this week, sir.
So this week, again, a team that just had a monster game, and that is Sydney. Sydney and Geelong will kick things off on TV on Friday on FS2. That is one of the ones you need to record because I sure won't be up at 2:50 a.m. But,
are you sure?
Yeah, 100%. Harry, our buddy's team, North Melbourne, will play Adelaide a little bit later. Western takes on Fremantle. That one, I believe, is going to be an interesting one because there's 1 game difference between both of them. So Western could easily be one of those teams that slide down. Fremantle slides up. That one also will be on FS2 on Saturday, 8:45. And then another quick one right after that one's done. Gold Coast and Collingwood, the number 10 team taking on the number 1 team. I think it's going to be a blowout, but Collingwood gets a good one. Hawthorn will play on Saturday against Carlton. So
what a horrible game.
That
5-8-1 versus 4-10.
Yeah, it's good. It's going to be crazy, and no TV on that one, so you have to watch the highlights on that one. But then
that's not true. I have my ways.
Yeah, you have your ways. And then Melbourne versus GWS. That is going to be the Saturday night game, 10 o'clock. First kick on that one.
This should be a pretty good game as well. GWS trying to stay in it. They're only 4 points out. Melbourne is trying to hang into the top 4. So that could be a good one there on Saturday night. They had the PBA Tour finals this weekend. I still have not watched the highlights of it. You got to watch. What'd you think?
Yeah, I watched most all of it. Kyle Troup picks up his 10th win, 10th title in his career now. Will put him Hall of Fame eligible. I think he gets in a little bit early to be saying that, but unbelievable. He knocked off EJ Tackett. Tackett made a huge error and missed a 10-pin, which forced a 9th and 10 game roll off in that final bracket, and able to win that one. And then Chris Prather on the other side of the bracket ends up against Belmo. Same thing happened. Prather even holds off Belmo throwing 300, which was crazy. And that one also another 9-10 roll off, and Prather with the wrist injuries and everything is back a bit, but his mental game, I know they were having issues sticking as that tournament was over in Arlington. I'd love to go over this next year if we can get a ticket, to go over to Arlington or to Seattle, watch that one. But when we got to the finals between Prather and Troup, it was all Troup in that one, using urethane on both sides of the lane. He ends up beating Prather 268-225 first game, and then shoots 266, 236. So congratulations to Kyle Troup.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, right. It would be interesting in this little nerdy talk, but they're changing the rules again on urethane. They just cannot get those figured out. Obviously, the bowlers have just completely made those top notch. I wish I knew how to. I have a urethane. It's behind me. I just always feels uncomfortable to throw. I don't know how to throw it. But those pros have that thing down, and those that can throw it and have the rev rate to do so make it really, really difficult on the rest of the field. Real quick, a little local bowling news. My son and I bowl in the youth adult league over there at Lancers. It's just a goofy league. There's only 4 teams. We have been in first place all year. We had a fun matchup last night where I needed to throw a double for us to win the first game. I failed to do so when we lost by 7 pins. Second game, we were down a bunch. And I'm able to throw a couple strikes late. Chase gets a spare in the 9th. He strikes in the 10th, then throws a gutter, then picks up the spare.
Oh,
So if he just it gets rid of the gutter, it would have helped. And then I go strike 9 for us to lose again by 7 pins.
oh no.
So that gutter did not help. And then Chase was bowling much better that third game. I bowled okay, and we ended up winning by like 80 or 90 pins or something the third game. So we split 2-2, but just the craziness of the first 2 games for us was pretty fun. Again, it's just a goofy youth adult league. It's a lot of, I think we trash talk each other more than anything else. And the same thing goes with all of the other pairs. We're just flipping each other crap the whole time. So we have a lot of fun. So I'm just throwing it out there, the shade towards my son for throwing a gutter that cost us the win. We won't talk about me costing us the first game. The PBA Skill Ball Challenge will be in Michigan in a month from now. Again, it's really the off season. A lot of the regionals are underway now. So as far as bowling on TV, you won't see that as much, but there's a ton of bowling going on around the country.
And that was weird, is because I was looking at that. They have already posted names that have signed up. So it was weird to see your name on the website, signed up, ready to go.
I'm in.
With an N next to it for novice. I'm assuming that's what that is. How they categorize it.
Non-bowler.
Non-bowler.
Not good bowler. That's what I get.
So that one will be happening right about the time the skills challenge will
About a
finish
month
up,
from now.
and then the big tournament that they do where they draft the teams, the Dallas Strikers and all that, that'll be kicking back off. So
I've always wanted to do something like that, but the egos in our valley would never allow for that. Somebody would get butthurt that they did not get drafted early or not at all. Or whatever. But I think it'd be a lot of fun. What happened in golf?
Well, what happened in golf? Keegan Bradley, and this is crazy. You know, we talk about the tournament coming off the U.S. Open, whether or not anybody would have the hiccups. Keegan Bradley did not, as he was able to shoot 23 under, where scorers were, fighting to get 9 under in the Open. There was, I believe, 6 players that were 20 or under on Saturday going in. I think they only ended up having 2 that finished that were 20 under, but Brian Harman, Zach Flair finished at 20 under, second place with that one. But the scores that Keegan Bradley put up, a 62, a 63, a 64, and then a 68. You figure, it'd be nice to shoot 68 or 70, but for this man to shoot 62, 63, 64 the first 4 days, he was in cruise control this whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Feel bad for our buddy Joel Damon. As I was looking, he was 3 over on at the end of Thursday, and at one point he was 10 over. He was 25 strokes behind Bradley on Friday. He does miss the cut by shooting 9 over. So
don't feel bad for him about that tournament. Feel bad for him for this tournament upcoming. Yeah, the Rocket Mortgage Classic at the Detroit Golf Club. A tweet 9 hours ago from the Rocket Mortgage Classic Twitter page to Joel Damon.
Oh no.
Says our Detroit fans haven't forgotten. As they retweeted a post that Joel Damon posted in January 8th saying, "Holy cow, I can't believe the Lions are sending my Seahawks to the playoffs. Beers for everyone in Detroit this summer." Joel has tweeted back to the Rocket Mortgage Classic Twitter page saying, "How much are beers at the course this week?" And somebody said, "More than you can afford."
I have not seen his Twitter page yet today. That is crazy. With that being said, Tony Finau hopes to defend his title chance there in Detroit this weekend for one of the funner tournaments, Rocket Mortgage. But the other one that's happening Thursday, I know we don't like talking a ton about it, but I'm excited about this one a little bit more than normal. The match, let me rephrase it. Capital One's The Match is back this Friday at the Wynn Golf Club in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is going to be Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce taking on Steph Curry and Klay Thompson this Thursday, 4:00 on TNT local time here. Listen, I a lot of these players like to play golf. I've watched Travis play. He played in the one at Lake Tahoe, the scramble and all that. But you got Steph Curry, who's a 1 handicap, and Klay Thompson, who was supposedly a 15, but somehow he's an 11 handicap now, taking on Patrick and Travis. Are you interested in watching football take on basketball in the match?
No, I like it better when it's a pro and an amateur against a pro and an amateur. I don't need 2 different amateurs going at it. Hopefully there's a lot of trash talk with those 4. I think it'll be a lot of fun as far as the trash talking goes. So I may try to catch the highlights or somebody will put together some of the goofy things that those 2 say, but I'm not going to watch this full round. That's for sure.
Well, they only play 12 holes. So
still. I'm not watching any that much. NASCAR real quick. They were at Nashville, the first race under the NBC banner. Ross Chastain comes away with the win. Martin Truex Jr. second. Denny Hamlin third. Chase Elliott fourth. And Kyle Larson fifth. Pretty decent race. Some different strategies involved throughout. That one was pretty clean throughout. But as you had mentioned at the top of the show, we're very more interested about the race this week at the Chicago Street Course, one of the first times in years that NASCAR will be racing on the streets, and they will do it in downtown Chicago. They were talking a lot about it during the Nashville race and kind of showing the course and just kind of focusing in on that. So that'll be interesting. It'll be a lot of fun to watch. Jimmy Johnson, who was expected to be at that race, will not, after the crazy news that went down today that his in-laws and his nephew were all found dead. The bodies of Jack Janway, who is 69, his wife Terry Janway, who is 68, and their grandson Dalton Janway, who is 11, were discovered yesterday at a home in Oklahoma. And reports and the police spokespeople are saying they believe that the wife, Terry Janway, killed both her husband and their grandson and then took her own life. Kind of shades of that whole Chris Benoit thing years and years ago. Just sickening to think about. So well wishes to Jimmy Johnson as his family for whatever is going on there. Hopefully they can find some closure. But horrible news coming out of Oklahoma and takes Jimmy out of a pretty fun race.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the track, how it's laid out, what they plan on doing with it. But, sad news coming out of the Hendricks compound with everything going on. So,
all right, let's finish out this show with Money in the Bank. WWE has another premium live event this Saturday in London. Crowd is going to be electric. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's hit our predictions before we get out of here. Start with those Money in the Bank ladder matches. On the men's side, it's Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, LA Knight, Butch, Santos Escobar, Damian Priest, and Logan Paul in that one. Who do you got and why?
I'm going to take LA Knight. I think they're going to move him. They're trying to move him up a little bit, get him some bigger matches. I think this is a chance for him to take a step forward and become a little bit more dominant in the Raw format.
Give me Damian Priest. He has been getting more and more highlighted matches as of late, especially on Raw. We'll see what they do there with the Judgment Day. They have been a pretty hot group as well, and it will play into a storyline later on in the show to me. Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Zelina Vega, Zoe Stark, Becky Lynch, Io Sky, Bailey, and Trish Stratus. Who do you got and why?
I'm going to take Becky. The only reason I'm going to take Becky is because you took the one that I was thinking was going to happen. But I think Becky Lynch comes back, makes a big statement, and then somehow gets it for SummerSlam, where her and Seth will be holding the titles at the same time.
That will not happen. It is going to be Io Sky. She is going to be set to take on Asuka at some point, and that is going to be absolutely fantastic. It's not going to be Becky Lynch. She's in that storyline right now with Trish. Those two will be fighting at SummerSlam, not for a belt. Zoe Stark also in there. We'll make sure she doesn't win, so it will not be Becky Lynch. WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. I don't care. Give me Ronda and Shayna.
They didn't lose the titles. They had to give them up, so the titles go back to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez.
Yeah, I don't care. Doesn't matter. They don't push that division anyways. World Heavyweight Championship match. Champion Seth Rollins defending against Finn Balor. Who do you got and why?
I'm going to take Seth. He's been working and taking on every match, and I think that's going to stay with it. I don't think they relinquish the title that fast.
Finn Balor is going to come out in his Jack the Ripper gear that he had in NXT TakeOver London years and years ago. He's going to have the crowd behind him. He may even show up as the Demon. Who knows? But Finn Balor will be your new World Heavyweight Champion for 5 minutes before the Judgment Day comes out and celebrates, and Damian Priest and the Judgment Day turn on Finn Balor. Damian Priest cashes in, and he becomes your new World Heavyweight Champion. That is my prediction. WWE Intercontinental Championship match, Gunther versus Matt Riddle. There's no way Gunther is losing his title, especially over there in England.
I agree 100%. And Matt Riddle not 100% coming back. I think Gunther just rolls all over him.
Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio. It's going to be a fun one. I've loved the build. I love the promo that Cody Rhodes cut yesterday. It was a lot of fun, but Cody Rhodes is definitely winning.
Yeah, 100%. I hope he shows Dominic what a real wrestler is. I think they go toe to toe for a little bit, but then he takes over and just abuses him.
And then finally, most likely your main event of the evening, the best storyline in wrestling in decades. Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa taking on the Usos in the Bloodline Civil War. Roman Reigns lost at the last pay-per-view in the tag team match. He's not losing again here. Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa will get the win. The heels have not won in this Bloodline storyline since WrestleMania, I think. And it will happen here. Give me Roman Reigns and Solo.
I think I'm going to go the other direction. I think there's so many people behind Usos right now. I think they take the win.
So there you go. That does it. That's another show in the books. One last reminder, we will not have a show next week due to the 4th of July. And then when we return on July 11th, Robert Hagan will not be here. Eric Watkins will be in his place. We will talk all about what we've missed over the 2 weeks of baseball. We will get into the best tight ends in the National Football League and all of the other news stories around the sports world. But until then, as Eric says, have a safe week. Everyone have a fantastic 4th of July. Happy birthday to my son. Since we won't have a show there, he turns fucking 15. 15! He turns 15 years old on Monday. It's ridiculous. I'm getting too old. I'm too old for this. That's just how it works. And we will see you in 2 weeks. But until then, that's Robert. I'm Randy. This is the R&R Sports Report, and we are out.